Hi, everyone. Happy weekend. Sunny skies, 84 this afternoon. Clear 50 tonight. Sunny, 84 tomorrow. Sunday, sunny, high of 84.
Staff meteorologist John Weatherby, Money Radio 1510 and 99.3 FM.
It's 81 degrees right now, and the Dow down 19 points at 16,678. S&P 500 flat at 1952. The NASDAQ up 12 at 4594. Reporting for Money Radio, I'm Ken Williams.
Hi, my name is Bob Roth, and I'm your host of Health Futures Taking Stock in You. Today is going to be a tribute show to a dear friend of mine that we lost last month. His name is Dr. Michael Zent, former president and CEO of Jewish Family and Children's Services. I had the pleasure of having him on my show on August 21st of last year. Today is Jewish Family and Children's Services' big event at the Biltmore Hotel, where they are celebrating their Brighter Tomorrow luncheon. This one's for you, Michael.
The views expressed on the following program do not necessarily reflect the views of Money Radio staff, management, or advertisers, and do not represent an offer to buy or sell any securities. Some interviews heard on this program may be sponsored by the participants. It's time for Health Futures with Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth. This is Arizona's only show dedicated to providing you with expert advice on how to live a longer, healthier, and happier life. To learn more, call 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Bob Roth.
Good afternoon. My name is Bob Roth, and you are listening to Health Futures Taking Stock in You. We're a weekly show found right here on Money Radio, 1510 AM, 99.3 FM, or on the World Wide Web at moneyradio1510.com. And if you're just tuning in, you heard the title of our show. It's Health Futures. Great play on words. We're here in Money Radio Studios, Health Futures Taking Stock in You. We've been on the air now for just a little over 20 months, almost 21 months. And we've been bringing to our listening audience resources and experts to talk about how our aging adult population can live a healthier, happier life. And we've been very fortunate to have some incredible guests on our show. And today's no different. I'll take a moment and introduce him in a second, but I wanted just to give some current events. Today being August 21st, right before the weekend. Yesterday on August 20th, I had the privilege of being honored, and I'm very humbled to be one of the healthcare heroes that the Phoenix Business Journal puts out. And it was a spectacular event. A number of great people in our community are doing some wonderful things. And like I said, I'm so humbled because I don't really consider myself, one of those leaders and one of those heroes when I look at some of the people that were recognized. But our Lifetime Achievement Award winner was a woman by the name of Gladys McGarry. And Gladys McGarry is a 94-year-old physician. And she's been practicing medicine for like 69 years. And she has done some phenomenal things. We are very lucky to have so many of these heroes right here in our backyard. And many of these heroes have been on our show. I wanted to give also an update, Hospice of the Valley. I've had them here on our show. I had Susan Levine on. They just were selected for this new Medicare program. They were awarded a grant from Medicare to participate in a national program that will enable people with life-limiting illnesses to receive palliative care while receiving curative care. And for people that don't realize that, in the past, if you're receiving curative care, you weren't able to receive hospice or palliative care. So this is a real departure, and it's a real clear breakthrough on Medicare where they're allowing that. And it'll be an interesting thing for us to watch. So speaking of healthcare heroes, my guest is no different. He may feel that he's not a hero, but I believe truly he is. He's a behavioral health veteran, has been in the business for a long time. I'll let him tell a little bit about himself, but He is the fearless leader of an incredible organization, a social service organization that resides right here in Phoenix and has been here in this marketplace for over 80 years, making a difference in many people's lives to the tune of over 75,000 a year people's lives. Without further ado, I want to introduce Dr. Michael Zent. Dr. Michael Zent, welcome aboard.
Well, thank you, Bob. It's a pleasure to be here.
And welcome to the studios. You're the president and CEO of Jewish Family and Children's Services.
Yes, Jewish Family and Children's Service, JFCS. We often go by our initials.
Yes.
President and CEO. I've been there about 6 years. At the current job before that, I worked in a lot of different behavioral health for the last, well, I hate to say how many years. Can I say at least 40?
You can say 40, and you know, in the second segment, I want to get a little bit more into it, but I really want to talk about, you know, this organization and what it's doing today, because, you know, I've had the pleasure, like I said at the top of this segment, of having some incredible people on the show, and we've talked about Alzheimer's and we've talked about dementia, and just recently I had two gentlemen from St. Luke's Behavioral Health Center on the show talking about some of the behavioral health challenges that we have. And that's kind of a sweet spot for JFCS, right?
Yeah, JFCS is a large provider of behavioral health services. So last year we saw over 37,000 people.
Wow.
We currently have in active treatment 10,000 patients at any given time. And we also have a lot of various programs in the sense that not only do we crisis services, we do in-home services, we predominantly see poor people. So about 97% of everybody we see is working poor at or below the poverty line. For those listeners that may not know, it's about 11,000 for a single person and about 24,000 for a family of four.
And that's to qualify below the poverty line, but to qualify for access, which is our state's Medicaid.
Right, and access has different requirements based upon a proportion of the poverty level. But for our entire population, 97% are about in that category.
So the income that you receive is purely through grants and philanthropy, right? And state dollars.
Well, we openly compete for contracts, so openly for Medicaid contracts. So most of our funding is an open, contract arrangement to provide services to poor people.
Wow.
And we also have some direct contracts with the Department of Child Safety, which deals with foster care kids and children who have a lot of problems in the home. You may read in the newspaper about a child that either was taken away from their parents because of abuse or neglect. Those are the kinds of cases that come to JFCS for services. And
what's interesting is, we're talking about the organization JFCS, a not-for-profit.
It's a not-for-profit. It's over 80 years old. It's non-sectarian. It's able to do things that other nonprofits can do, like fundraise, like provide care to needy people with donated funds that they may not be able to afford. So, and our programs range all the way from adult programs to kids programs. We're very specialized in the kids areas. So we, for example, have a team that goes out into the hospital and tries to divert, admission to the hospital. So a child may be in the emergency room, but if we can get them out of there, put them back in their home, and put some in-home services around them for like 2 weeks, that prevents the hospitalization. Because hospitalization, for anybody, but for a child to be put in the hospital is a very traumatic event, not only for the child, but for the family and who's ever, taking care of them.
And not only that, and primarily that, but secondarily, a huge cost to our healthcare system.
It's a huge cost to the healthcare system
because,
as well.
But doing the intervention, having your staff, your professionals, your clinicians avert the hospitalization going to home, it's a less costlier proposition.
Right. That very intervention makes the most sense from a clinical care for somebody standpoint, as well as a business and financial standpoint, and cost to society. Exactly.
Wow. Well, and you know what? I know we're coming up on a break, but one of the things that I do want to say is, we're talking about JFCS, but JFCS can only do what they do through the contracts it wins, through the grant monies they get, through the philanthropy they also receive. But most importantly, it's the staff that you have.
It's the staff.
Because
Absolutely.
You're only as good as your people. And I've had the chance of meeting some of your behavioral health counselors. They're exceptional.
Bob, you are right on.
Yeah, I know it. I mean, as you know, my family's been benefactors to JFCS for a number of years. I believe in the mission, and I think you guys are doing some incredible things in the community, and I want to hear more when we come back. My name is Bob Roth. I have Dr. Michael Zent in the studio from JFCS, Jewish Family and Children's Service. We will be right back.
When people want to talk about money, they get their talking points right where you are now. Money Radio 1510 AM and 99.3 FM.
I'm Tim McGraw, and I have a challenge for you. Nearly 30 million Americans have diabetes. Most have type 2 diabetes. I've seen firsthand how it impacts people from all walks of life. It's affected my family, friends, and fans. If you have diabetes, take the challenge to get your blood sugar under control. Pledge to work with your doctor to set and reach your own A1C goal. I'm a strong believer in making healthy choices, so join me now at americasdiabeteschallenge.com.
Steve Jurich here. At IQ Wealth, our investment division, IQ Wealth Advisory, LLC, is separate from our insurance division. Our team doesn't rely on one superstar manager who might go on a cold streak and make a series of investment blunders. Decisions are made by a qualified team of strategists focused on both the obvious and non-obvious trends. We use a weight of the evidence approach to decision making that requires a significant majority of factors in reaching investment conclusions. This helps defend against following any one factor in taking action on our portfolios. At IQ Wealth, we believe our methodology results in an investment strategy to both protect your money in rough times and to grow it when opportunities arise.
Investment advisory services by IQ Wealth Advisory, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Annuity guarantees rely on the financial strength of the insurer, so compare with Steve. Call 480-902-3333. Visit IQWealth.com. Call 480-902-3333. Call Steve now.
Your one blood donation can help save the lives of up to 3 people. Give blood through the American Red Cross to help hospital patients. Call 1-800-RED-CROSS or visit redcrossblood.org today.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. My name is Bob Roth, and you are listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. And if you missed the first segment, I've got Dr. Michael Zent from Jewish Family and Children's Service here in the studio. They're a 80-year-plus old social service organization that serves the secular community right here in the greater Phoenix area. And if you missed our first segment, you can catch it right up on our website at cypresshomecare.com. Push on the radio button, and you can catch our first segment. You can catch about 84 others, and you can catch the next 3 that we're about to do. So, Dr. Zent, we were talking before the break. We were talking about the staff, the people.
Staff.
Because that's really, you don't have a social service organization if you don't have the people, the army of people.
Yeah, I would say that in social services and behavioral health, if you're not dedicated and don't have some mission commitment, you wouldn't even be in the field because the work is hard. The cases are rough. We see some very tough cases for kids. Mm-hmm. We'll talk a little bit about that.
I do want to talk about that.
And without really dedicated staff, and the staff are the I guess the part of the agency that I feel the most proud of in a way. I mean, we do such good work, but the dedication, and when I say dedication, I mean staff that are willing to go the extra mile, to work the extra hour, to pay attention to the small details that are needed to make families, children's, and our adult services work. So without the staff, there'd be nothing. But the staff are exceptional, not only in their training and dedication. We have staff that have been there many years. We have a lot of young staff. Staff come to our agency to learn as well because we have such seasoned, experienced staff. They know they're dedicated. That not only do they learn clinical skills, but they get a sense of mission-driven work at the same time.
And you would think that an 80-year-old plus organization you would be doing things so old school. And what I'm amazed at by the JFCS is that you've embraced these technologies. I mean, I remember coming into your offices 5+ years ago, and you would have auditors. We get audited, too, by state programs and stuff, and you got everything digitized. I mean, you've embraced the latest in technology, your organization has.
We have. We've embraced the latest, all the way from electronic health records to sharing of information. We're experimenting with some of the in-home mobile apps on your telephone, like maybe a depression screening instrument, wellness checks in the homes, and so forth. I want to give you one example of technology that is a lifesaver, and I'll just relate this story that happened several years ago.
Okay.
We have a lot of young staff, and as all of you that work with what they call the millennials, basically people under 30.
Like our producer, Ash.
Yes.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, like us. You know that they live off text messaging a lot. So a few years ago, there was a request to authorize text messaging when it had not been authorized, for our phones, right? So it was approved. Our youth and transition team, which deals a lot with foster care youth, one of the supervisors is on a Saturday receives a text message from a child, which when I say child, under 18.
Right.
So, and this really young man expressed some suicidal thoughts. She knew that she had to do something. So she was able, after the text message, to then send a group message to all of the staff that had anything to do with this, and say, do you know where this person lives, because I'm very worried about him. In between, she dialed up the electronic health record to find out which medications he was on, because she suspected an overdose of something, and the EMTs were already in transit, but they didn't know where the child lived. Right, because he had moved about 2 weeks before that, and nobody knew the address. This is again one of the people who were on the group text message. This is on a Saturday now. This is because they look at their phones. Said, I don't know where he lives, but I picked him up after an event last week and delivered him to the apartment, and I can drive to that apartment. They came in. The paramedics had to break the door down. He had overdosed.
Wow.
Staff accompanied him to the hospital, and had it been about 4 more hours, he would be dead.
I mean, you can't see this, but the hair on my arms is sticking up. I mean, that is an incredible story, Dr. Zent. I mean, it says a lot about the people. I mean, some people today. I don't work on Saturday. I'm not looking at my phone. You have staff that cares, and especially when it comes to children. I mean, and I will share this with our listening audience. I did an expo the other day, and I was next door to another behavioral health operational organization here in the community called Teros. And I had asked them, have you ever heard of JFCS? And I heard of them. They're incredible. We refer all our children to them, and they do an exceptional job.
Yeah. They're one of our fellow agencies that we collaborate and cooperate with.
And I think that is the resounding answer I get from most people when I talk about the work that JFCS does. It's you've got an incredible reputation, and Michael, I'm not here to stroke your ego, but I'm going to do it anyway for our listening audience. It all starts with leadership, and if you got a great leader and someone that can establish the vision, and granted, you've only been that helm for 5 or 6 years, but you had great leaders prior to that, and you've been able to keep the mission going. And in your short term there, I mean, you guys have more than doubled the amount of people you're seeing, the amount of revenue that you're doing. I mean, it is surely an amazing thing to watch, because we still have so many more people we got to help.
We have a really, really high need out there. That's one of the things of behavioral health, that the need just.
Well, let's talk about that, because you said something about 40 years, and you look like you might be about 50 something. So I find it hard to believe that you've been doing this for 40 years. But tell us a little bit about your background. And I really would like you to give us a kind of a state of where behavioral health is today, and where do you see it going in the future? Because, I know what it's like in home care, and what we're dealing with are challenges relating to depression And what we're dealing with are challenges related to some diseases like Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's, and the effects that they have on so many.
Well, not to make a long story short, but and thank you for the 50, the comment on looking 50. But I actually started out when I was working through my way through the university. I actually started working at State Hospital, and which is a very stark and
State Hospital here. You're a native Arizona.
I'm a native Arizona, and I was working down at 24th Street in Van Buren.
Okay.
So you get to see things there that if you're just coming from the outside that you wouldn't believe, because there's a lot of people with very, very serious problems. There's a lot of behavior issues and so forth. So I worked my way through into graduate school by working at State Hospital. That's what got me interested in behavioral health. And then I did an internship that was sponsored by the National Institute for Mental Health and the Arizona Department of Health Services in mental health administration. So that's how I actually got to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked for the health department. I was the head of drug abuse for several years for Arizona Department of Health Services. And then I started looking more at running and starting programs at community-based agencies. So I did that, and then I had the opportunity to come up and run the behavioral health system under Value Options, the public behavioral health system. So I did that for 6.5 years.
And they were that was a big organization, Value Options.
It's a big organization, yeah. The contracts, we had about 1,800 staff and probably close to about $500 million a year in funds that we were administering. So I have, I always tell people, I have seen this, if you want to call the behavioral health system an elephant. I've seen, the various legs of the elephant all the way from State Hospital to large managed care companies. And here at the community-based agency, I can tell you feel closer to what's happened in the community. So the need, state of behavioral health, behavioral health and mental health, the focus varies over time. Recently, it's got more focus, perhaps for the wrong reason, because many of these national shootings, have clearly, almost all of them have clearly been by somebody who's either have been in treatment or who should have been in treatment or whose engagement with treatment failed. So, and that's why there's currently several bills in Congress at the national level to increase mental health funding because of the high visibility of these cases.
Yeah, and I know we're coming up on a break, and the headlines are littered with these behavioral health challenges, and we had one happen right here down in Tucson 3 or 4 years ago, and I know you lived down there for a number of years. That happened to Gabby Giffords.
Absolutely.
And you talked about the movie theaters,
Mm-hmm.
and I say theaters, and it's in plural because there are copycat artists, and it's a shame that we can't go to the theater and think about our safety and our
without
protection.
thinking about that. Exactly.
Yeah. And I just heard recently that one theater chain is going to have metal detectors there. I'm like, really? Has our world really come to that? And I really think it's a point that you've made is maybe the system isn't set up correctly or the system's failed. We need to talk a little bit more about our behavioral health system and where things are and where they're going. It's hard to believe we're up on a break. We're down 2 segments, Michael. We got 2 more to go. You having fun?
I'm having a lot of fun.
And our job here is to really educate our listening audience. And JFCS is a great provider, but behavioral health is a huge challenge for our community. My name is Bob Roth. You're listening to Health Futures, and I've got Dr. Zent from JFCS.
As we reach the bottom
We'll
of
be right
the hour,
back.
we pause for a look at the world's news. Then we're back with Money Talk. We're Money Radio 1510 and 99.3 FM.
A big endorsement today for Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump from former rival Chris Christie as they appeared together in Fort Worth, Texas.
I am proud and happy to be part of this team. I want Texas to be Trump country on Tuesday. And so ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and my privilege to introduce the next president of the United States, Donald Trump.
Christie says he has not been offered any position by the Trump campaign. Once again, President Obama talks to the nation about a shooting spree, this time yesterday's rampage in Heston, Kansas, that left 3 dead and 14 wounded, he said.
We cannot become numb to this. Anybody who says they want to keep the American people safe has to care about this, because it's happening in far too many towns and affecting far too many innocent Americans. And there are some things we can do about it.
The president speaking in Jacksonville, Florida. Stocks are narrowly mixed on Wall Street. The Dow is down, S&P and NASDAQ up. I'm Michael Toscano.
The following is a message from the Bud Light Party.
Today, we're grabbing a few Bud Lights to talk about the serious issues, like renewable energy. There's solar, there's wind. What other weather can we put to work for Americans? How about rain energy? Can we harness the power of fog or thunder snow? That's a real thing. What if thunder snow energy could charge our cell phones? Figure it out, science. This message approved by the Bud Light Party. Raise one to right now. Enjoy responsibly. Bud Light Beer, AB, St. Louis, Missouri.
O'Reilly. Save on your next oil change when you purchase 5 quarts of Castrol GTX conventional motor oil and a MicroGuard filter for $22.99. Or for higher mileage vehicles, upgrade to Castrol GTX high mileage and a MicroGuard filter for $23.99. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better prices every day. Limits apply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Send him a text with your questions, and he'll answer it on the air. It's Rob Booker with the new Booker Report. Weekdays at 3 p.m. on Money Radio.
Don't just fund your retirement, overfund it. Many listeners today have moved large sums to cash to avoid risk, but are getting frustrated with 0 rates of return. Is there a better place to hold a cash portion for at least part of your money? One that offers liquidity, the potential for indexed interest of 5 to 8%, no surrender charges, tax-deferred growth, a tax-free death benefit of up to 2 times the cash you put in, and on top of that, long-term care benefits. There are no annual payments and no surrender charges. You simply shift some of that dead cash into an exceptional financial and estate planning tool, backed and guaranteed. To learn more, simply visit overfundlife.com. That's overfundlife.com, a service of Steve Jurich and IQ Wealth Management. Overfundlife.com.
Everybody, there's a party going on inside of my spice cabinet. Does that sound crazy to you? It's not that crazy to me. I went to Sevenfold Spice. This is the word 7 spelled out. S-E-V-E-N. foldspice.com, and I got the All-Star Smoker Rub, the Burger Spice Blend, the Garlic Spice Blend, the Habanero Spice Blend, and the Lemon Herb Spice Blend. This stuff is unbelievable. All natural ingredients, preservative-free, MSG-free, gluten-free. And right now, if you go to sevenfoldspice.com and at checkout you put in the promo code RADIO, you're going to get either like 10% off your order, or you're going to get free shipping, or someone's going to kiss you on the mouth. That's actually not going to happen. I wish it was. I'd be buying a lot of stuff there. That would be good for me right now. Go to sevenfoldspice.com, promo code RADIO, and get a party started in your spice cabinet.
Your one blood donation can help save the lives of up to 3 people. Give blood through the American Red Cross to help hospital patients. Call 1-800-RED-CROSS or visit redcrossblood.org today.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Good afternoon. My name is Bob Roth, and you're listening to Health Futures. We're on our 3rd segment. I got Dr. Michael Zent from Jewish Family and Children's Service, otherwise known as JFCS. And we're going to jump right in because we've been talking about behavioral health, and we've been talking about where we're at as a community today, where it stands. Michael was giving us his background, being in the business for about 40 years, and really some of the challenges and some of the changes he's seen. But obviously the need continues to grow, and this is something that is making our headlines every single day. When we were at the break, we were talking about the most recent one was with that beheading, and you were sharing with me that person and the other person were in our state system, were they not?
Yeah, both the people were in the state system, and they had been, under Arizona law, we have a not guilty by reason of insanity,
right?
Where the actual sentence into special unit state hospital is equivalent to what the prison sentence would be, right? So, and this was a particularly gruesome event. If anybody followed the different write-ups, because not only was it decapitation and a dismembering, but the alleged perpetrator tried to saw off his own arm. In fact, did saw off the hand and plucked out his own eye. Now, when the public reads that, people say they must have really had some problems, some mental health problems to get into that kind of state.
Right.
And the truth is, they did. So when somebody then comes out of a setting like the state hospital, then there's services that are, that they're referred to. So the system, it's sad that it takes those kinds of things sometimes to drive investment in mental health and, investment in social services. But the reality is that the system could do a better job of keeping people connected, and it could do a better job of the early warning signs when somebody is, as we clinically say, decompensating, which means if they're not taking their medication, often the symptoms are occurring. The system could do a better job of monitoring that and doing early interventions. So these high visible cases that we're seeing, whether it's in Denver or, the Giffords, sad Giffords shooting in Tucson, those individuals had either some contact with the mental health system or they were identified as having a mental health problem. So the system as a whole can do better. So part of it's money, but part of it's community will to pay attention to these issues.
It's interesting. When you sit down and you talk about the system, but I think, our community as a whole, we all have a duty to be on the lookout. It's amazing how we're in different times today. And, you had this incredible speaker at the last, Brighter Tomorrow luncheon. That's one of the key fundraisers that you have. And I mentioned at the top of the show, you rely on philanthropy to do a lot of the work that you do. And this woman, she chanted out that, my son is Adam Lanza. And she was the guest speaker. And, where, she had, if I recall correctly, she had shared that on social media, and she was encouraged to share that with others to really come out and talk about mental health illness, but was afraid to. And,
right.
And these are people that are real people like you and I. And you know what? If they can get some help relating to treatment, through medication or therapy, they can live normal lives. They can be productive members in our communities. But it's our job as a community to be able to say there's something wrong. And I'm talking about teachers. I'm talking about, as adults, to see these types of behaviors to get people the help they need.
Yeah, early intervention is critical. And like she was saying, she's giving the example of her child. But if there's no intervention, and the intervention, the technologies have gotten better. So the medications are better. Probably mental illness affects, let's say, 1 in 5 people at some point in their life. Many people, they have issues with depression or anxiety, and they're seeking services. So even from just a productivity standpoint, if somebody's depressed or they're anxious, they're not as productive at their work. So all society has an interest at all levels in investing in good mental health services. If you take kids that don't get early treatment, what you're going to get is then an older kid, and then you're going to get an adolescent, and then you're going to get a young adult where they continue to have the problems. If you intervene and bring in effective treatment, that lifespan can be much more productive.
Absolutely. And it's recognizing that person needs help. And, it starts with us as parents, and then it goes to, our teachers and others to recognize this. It's hard to believe it was 16 years ago when the Columbine massacre happened.
Right.
And I remember that like yesterday. And unfortunately, we've had many more. And, I think the public and even I and others and maybe even you say, how does this stop? How can we stop this? Well, one way to stop it is to be able to have services like the services that JFCS provides, because if you go back 16 years ago and you look at the number of people you're treating then versus what you're treating now, I would say it's probably 5, maybe 10 times as many.
Right.
And part of that is identifying people that need help. And granted, 97% of the audience that you're serving are poor. But, there's so many people that weren't getting help and are getting help, but there's so many more that need it.
Yeah, and when you look at it as a whole, it's probably not possible to prevent all incidents. But it is possible to do a much better job and identify. And I would tell the listening public that mental health services, when you go in for treatment, it still carries a stigma. And we've been battling the issue of stigma for a long time. Mm-hmm. Because people say, well, it's okay, to tell somebody about my gallbladder, but not that I just walked out because I was depressed and I saw a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a mental health practitioner. So one thing parents can do and the community can do as a whole is help with that stigma. It's okay to seek help. It's okay to go talk to somebody. It's okay if I had bad days and I keep having bad days. It's okay to seek help.
Right.
Help seeking is okay. And if we can get that message out more, that's a positive thing.
And I think that's one of the resounding remarks that our speaker said at the Brighter Tomorrow luncheon was, I don't think she realized how many people were out there that wanted to help, because she was so fixated on that stigma that she had an Adam Lanza as her son, and she was afraid that if she remarked about it, people would shun her, and it was the complete opposite. People opened up their arms and said, how can we help? And they were giving her resources. So, and that's what we're doing here for our listening audience. We're giving resources to our community. We do have a challenging behavioral health situation, I'll put it, in our community right here in Arizona. But the great thing about it is we got great resources here too. And as I mentioned before, we had St. Luke's on, and they've got some great behavioral health centers. So, if you need someone that needs treatment, you can go there. And there's some others that are here in our community. And, if you have any questions as our listening audience, feel free to call JFCS, and you can reach them at 602-279-7655, or you can find them on the web at jfcsaz.org. The other thing I will make an appeal for, as I shared earlier, my family's been a benefactor for a number of years. They rely on philanthropy. If you believe in this mission, you can find out more about that on that web page, and you can also find out more by calling. So, Dr. Zent, we're on our third break. I can't believe it. We're just rolling along.
All right.
So
coming back for the
we're going to come back
for the home stretch.
For the home stretch, and then we'll go right into the weekend. It's hard to believe that we're coming up on our weekend. You're listening to Health Futures Taking Stock in You. My name is Bob Roth, and I got Dr. Michael Zent in the house. We'll be right back.
Did you know that every dollar you put in a piece of real estate makes you money 5 ways? Cash flow, money in your pocket each month. Equity capture, the thousands of dollars you create when you have the right team and buy the right property using the right map. Appreciation, real estate doubles in value about every 20 years. Equity buildup, renters pay down your mortgage each month. And finally, the tax advantage. We pay almost no taxes on our cash flow and capital gains. These are the 5 ways we make money in real estate, which is why real estate accounts for more millionaires in the world today than any other investment vehicle. You should have some real estate in your portfolio. To learn how, attend one of our free workshops. Call 866-971-8970 or go to luiphoenix.com and register for the next available workshop. That's 866-971-8970 or go to luiphoenix.com.
Now it's time for the Secured Financial Solutions Educated Investor Series.
With all the different investments and annuities out there, people have so many questions about which one is right for them. How do you help navigate your clients into the best options to fit their specific needs?
Well, it would be nice if there was a one-size-fits-all investment option out there that fit every single client's goals and wishes. The reality is that because one client's goals and wishes will usually be different from the next, there are several different options available. It's important to work with a firm that has a process in place to determine what options will best fit your specific goals and wishes.
Now, can you tell me a little bit more about your firm's process?
Certainly. It all starts with the Risk Profile Questionnaire. This is a series of questions that we have filled out in the very first strategy session. We have them fill this out because this helps us determine who they are as an investor and what risks they are willing to take. Do not work with an advisor or agent who makes specific investment recommendations without a completed risk profile questionnaire. At the end of the day, how can you be sure that the advisor is recommending the right solution for you if they have not gathered all the crucial information from the beginning? We feel so strongly about the importance of the risk profile questionnaire that we will not move forward in the strategy session until we have it completed and are able to review the answers together.
Well, that certainly shows how much your firm values that information. What's next after the risk profile questionnaire?
Since we are a full-service firm, this means we are able to offer liquid stock market investments through our active money management platform, as well as annuities from different insurance companies that offer a wide range of features and benefits that all focus on preservation of principal. Together, we determine what portion of your assets go into each area to best fit your specific needs.
Call Secured Financial Solutions, LLC at 800-957-5604, extension 200, or visit dreamretire.com.
Investment advisory services offered through Hodor Investment Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Security transactions for Hodor Investment Management clients are placed through TD Ameritrade, Trust Company of America, and ED&F Man Capital Markets. Annuity products are offered separately through Secured Financial Solutions, LLC.
Your one blood donation can help save the lives of up to 3 people. Give blood through the American Red Cross to help hospital patients. Call 1-800-RED-CROSS or visit redcrossblood.org today.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. My name is Bob Roth, and you're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. I've got Dr. Michael Zent from Jewish Family and Children's Service here in the studio, otherwise known as JFCS. We're in our 4th segment. If you missed the first 3, you can catch them right up on our website at cypresshomecare.com. And I want to just get right back into it, Michael. We were talking about the value of philanthropy. Can you share with our listening audience what that means to JFCS?
Well, JFCS could not do what it does without philanthropy. Even though we may have a contract, often, the rate that people pay covers only selected services. So a good example is when you take kids. Okay, so maybe you might get your visit covered, but what the child needs is maybe a backpack to go to school,
right,
or some transportation subsidy, or some extra help from a program that can enroll them in sports, or an educational program that can do some tutoring. None of those things can happen without philanthropy. It's also true that people in treatment will lose their eligibility or coverage either by their insurance or by Medicaid. And we use philanthropic funds to complete that treatment. So just because somebody becomes ineligible doesn't mean we kick them out. And that's a very good use of our funds. There are also people who don't qualify, who have no resources. And they are not only poor, but you can't get them qualified for a payer source, but they need help. And so we use those funds for that as well. We are in the middle of a large fundraising effort because we're moving into a change that we call integrated care. And that integrated care...
I want you to talk about that.
Okay.
That's great.
Yeah, the integrated care is where you can get both your behavioral health services and your primary care in the same setting. So our site that we're developing at Catalina is 25,000 square feet, about 20,000 square feet for behavioral health, and about 5,000 square feet for primary care. We have an on-site pharmacy. So we're currently in a capital campaign to fund that.
Now, you called it Catalina, but it's located in Maryville, right?
It's in Maryville, which Maryville is one of the highest need areas in the state.
Right.
It has what we call the highest out-of-home removal rate from the Department of Child Safety, which means kids are taken away from their parents, either for abuse or neglect. And it's a poor area. It's a heavily Latino area. And so it's a really, really high need area. Our center's at 33rd Avenue in Thomas, for those of you that know the Valley. So the integration approach is to begin to treat people holistically, in the sense that you have physical health needs and you have behavioral health needs. A very small example is you have a mother with, say, 2 kids. It's July. You take 40% of our clients, patients, take public transportation to get there. So imagine in July, you come in, you get a service, maybe there's a prescription written for medication for one of your children, and you got to get back on the bus.
Go to pharmacy.
And go to pharmacy.
Right.
That's a very, very time-consuming process, and people are less likely, the more barriers put in place, they're less likely then to do that. So on-site pharmacy, and eventually, when we get the funding, on-site primary care is going to have a tremendous impact on the kids and the adults and the families that we see.
I think it's a recipe for success. And, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it takes a lot to get there if they're using public transportation. And oftentimes, if we make it cumbersome and difficult to complete what the treatment protocol is in getting the prescription or whatever the therapy is, then what good was the visit in the first place? So
exactly,
very, 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 it's a very solution-oriented solution. The location is dynamite. As I said before, they really, really do some wonderful services in our community, and they rely on philanthropy. And the integrated health piece is the one that I think is so interesting, because now we're looking at the whole person, the mind, body, and spirit of that person, and you can address all of those. Where before you were just really addressing the mind. And maybe the spirit, but not the body. And now you can take care of the body too, which is really
the
nice.
Physical part has never been very well integrated between the mental health system and the primary care system. It's moving in that direction, but for our adult population, for example, that we see, there are so many people who have so many health problems. They are so significant that group dies almost 30 years before the general population. And I can't say that strong enough, because they have problems with diabetes, congestive heart failure, hypertension, many, many, many health problems. The medications that are often used you have to monitor the side effects. That's why people need to get lab work done.
Right.
They need to understand. If you're diabetic, you want to be managing your blood sugar, your A1C level, and that takes patient engagement often. So all those things will pay off in real years added to people's lives. And as people begin to do more and more of this, it's a trend, we're seeing a reformation, if you will, in some of the way the systems deliver services.
And as I said at the top of the show, the primary benefit is that. The secondary benefit is going to save money for our healthcare system.
Absolutely.
So if we can keep track of these people, we can get them on the proper therapies and the proper regimens, they're going to be healthier, and they're not going to be in our ERs, and they're not going to be in our skilled nursing facilities or in our treatment centers. So it's going to cost us a lot less money. So it is the ultimate win-win proposition.
It is. So many people that come into the emergency room, I think if you talk to the emergency rooms across the valley, they would tell you that a lot of people that come in don't need to be there. It's they don't have access, and it's because maybe it's education, or because it's convenience, or because it's coverage. But coming into the emergency room is very, very expensive. So, for example, somebody doesn't control their diabetes because they can't get to their visits, or they're not educated about food, or they're not monitoring. That person may come in a single year. We've seen people have 17 and 25 visits to the emergency room. Well, that makes no sense to keep paying for that, unless we think of a much better way to intervene earlier, so that we don't have to have the end of that visit in the emergency room.
I've had 2 ER doctors on our show before. I had Dr. Alan Roga, who has an incredible product.
Fantastic.
And he just recently sold his company, Stat Doctors. I wish him a huge congratulations. And I had Dr. Kevin Hazelhurst from Arrowhead Hospital, and both of them said resoundingly, the last place you want to go is to the hospital ER. That's the last place you want to go. So, I mean, I want our listening audience to listen to that, because a lot of people use our ERs as their primary care physician.
Exactly. That's what they do.
You know, and the ERs are where you can pick up just about anything. And, you know, for me, where I am taking care of our aging adult population, you know, the last place we want to go, unless we really have to, is an ER or even a doctor's practice. And I advocate, you know, for our centurions or close to our centurions, is to get people to make house visits. It's much easier to do it, less stressful for them, and it keeps them away from those communicable diseases. You know, they're not going to be exposed to any of those things, all those germs.
It makes sense, yes.
It definitely does. You know, it's hard to believe we're just finishing up, but one of the things I want you to end on, if you would, is how you collaborate with other services in the state and the other community providers, because I think that's the thing I love about what you guys do.
Well, we're involved in several networks of other community-based providers, but we collaborate not only with providers, we collaborate with, you know, we have a contract with the state. You know, Arizona has over 17,000 kids in foster care. It's nothing but gone up. There's backlogged cases. People read the newspaper. 2/3 of almost those kids in foster care are involved some way with JFCS in treatment. One of the things that we've done to be collaborative is we actually have staff outstationed into the offices so that we can do early case identification and collaboration for children who are under the custody of Division of Child Safety.
If you want to learn more, go to jfcsaz.org. Call them at 602-279-7655. And I want to share this with our listening audience. You and I are working on an aging adult solution for our community. And I want to bring you back because I want to talk to you about this Jewish Federation study that was done and where we see aging adult care in our future. And JFCS and Cypress HomeCare Solutions have partnered in the past and will continue to partner to provide solutions for our aging adult population.
I look forward to coming back.
Michael, that's it. Make it a great day. Have a great weekend. I'm Bob Roth and Dr. Michael Zent from JFCS. Make it a great day. Bye.
Thank you.
There's no place like home. You've been listening to Bob Roth's Health Futures. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call Cypress HomeCare Solutions at 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Or visit cypresshomecare.com. Be sure to join Health Futures with Bob Roth every Friday at noon, right here on Money Radio 1510 and 99.3 FM.
Market Wrap with Mo Ansari is your daily source for financial news and analysis. With over 30 years of trading experience, Mo shares his thoughts on the markets, answers your financial questions, and features guest experts from around the world covering a variety of investment topics. Visit MarketWrapWithMo.com for more info about the show and listen to Market Wrap with Mo Ansari.
And 99.3 FM.
Is KFNN Mesa Phoenix and K257CD Phoenix. Be sure to check out our new afternoon show, The Booker Report with Rob Booker. He'll be waiting for your text with questions about investing decisions at 3 p.m. today. Dow is up down 68 points, S&P down 5, the NASDAQ is up 4.
When people want to talk about money, this is the place they come to. And there's more on the way after this break for the latest news. And we begin